Abbiamo ora in linea la prossima ospite di oggi, la dottoressa Simona Carbone della Monash University. Buon pomeriggio, Simona. Hello, how are you?
Grazie, sto bene, grazie. I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, ottimo. Allora, continuiamo forse in italiano, un po' inglese. So, Monash University, we had another researcher from Monash not too long ago, Febbraio, and
yes.
So are you working in the same area or related area to him?
He's actually in the same department as me. He joined my department a couple of years ago now. Our research is both, it's related to each other, but not directly connected. So I study the gut. We both study things to do with the gut. He's really interested in metabolism. So how you break down food and how the energy from that food is used. And I'm interested in more the mechanical part. So how food that you eat moves along the gut and how it gets expelled out again at the other end.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating. Okay, come esce dal corpo umano. See, I see you smiling there, so I translated that last bit about how it comes out. What's the interest in that from a research perspective?
So my interest started because I'm interested in neuroscience, i nervi. The gut is a very special organ because it has its own nervous system completely within it. So within your intestines, penso si chiamano I intestini, they have their own little brain that tells it what to do. So my love for the gut started with the little gut brain.
How does that work? We've got a brain in the stomach?
Yeah, il piccolo cervello, yeah. You do, you have a little brain in your stomach. So if you were to take out a piece of intestine, and we do these experiments where we put them in a dish and we monitor normal things that the gut would do. And this bit of gut can stay alive for really a couple of days, as long as it's got the nutrients that it needs to stay alive. And it's because of this little gut brain that it's still able to function, which is really fascinating.
So what's the brain? Why do they need a brain? What does the brain do to keep the intestine alive?
So in terms of, well, really, it controls everything.
Okay.
So the movement of the gut, the way that the gut is able to absorb nutrients and water and electrolytes, the way that the gut coordinates how much energy you need to take in, whether or not something is dangerous that you've ingested, all of those things, this little gut brain is the primary controller of all of those functions.
Okay. Is that right? It's really the intestine, not the stomach.
Oh, it's the same thing. It's the same from the esophagus, so after the mouth, il stomaco e anche gli intestini pure.
Ah, ok. Tutto il sistema.
Tutto il sistema.
Sì. E allora, ho spiegato anche che tu sei di Adelaide. You're from Adelaide. So how?
I am.
What's the story there?
So I born and bred in Adelaide. Ero nata in Adelaide. La mia famiglia ancora non vivono lì. Ma io e il mio marito abbiamo venuto a Melbourne verso 2012, in October of 2012, once I finished my PhD studies. I got a job after completing my studies. I moved to Monash about 5 years ago now, and been happily living here ever since.
So you did your research, your PhD at Flinders University, is that right?
Flinders University, yeah. And my scientific nonno is Professor Marcello Costa.
Marcello Costa.
Yes, a prominent researcher of Italian descent as well.
Cool. And so you went to Monash, and I see that you've got something called a DECRA.
Yeah.
Fellowship.
Yeah.
What is that?
That was a big surprise. That's what that was. So we, as researchers, can apply for money from the government to do our work. That's where most people at a university, a lot of people have money from different government initiatives. The Australian Research Council is who funded my fellowship, and it's a early career researcher fellowship. So I get to do research for about 3 years full time on the gut and these special nerve cells that these special cells that work with that little brain in the gut as well.
Yes, I need to point out that is got a very prestigious award that you got. DECRA is well sought, and you have to have very solid credentials already, even as an early career researcher. So congratulations for that. That's very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's good.
I was just going to say, I found out I got that a couple of weeks after having my second child. So it was very nice. It was a very good month, the month of October 2019.
Okay, so working. Okay, how's that? Doing a researcher as a young mum, and let's add to that COVID in the last 12 months or so. How's this been?
Yeah. So I've definitely returned back to work much more prepared the second time around compared to the first. So I've had 2 children now. This time I'm much better prepared in terms of I work more efficiently, I organize my day better. And I think it also helps that I'm in charge of a lab group now as well. So I get to dictate what I do with my day compared to the first time when I was working for someone. So I can set my day up as I need to. So that's really good. I returned to work right in the smack bang of COVID and strict lockdown restrictions in Melbourne. And that was initially incredibly daunting. Starting this new fellowship, which, as you say, is quite prestigious. I didn't want to stuff it up. But I've employed quite a few strategies to help with controlling my anxiety, controlling my day. So I've actually relished being back. I really love being back. And I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, cool. And we'll come back in a minute to talk about that, but also a podcast that I see you've started very recently. We need to have a little break and listen to some messages from our sponsors. Now, before going on to this podcast, so this small brain is, how similar or different is it from the brain in our head?
So there are some similarities. Both brains are made up of what are called nerve cells. So there's a similarity there. But the brain in your head has very organized locations for the different things that it controls. Like you've got one part that'll tell things how to move. You've got another part that will sense emotion and that sort of thing. But the way that this little gut brain is organized is that it flows throughout the whole intestine. So you can imagine that's quite a long pathway. It runs across the whole length of the gut wall. Like I said, from the esophagus down to the end, the rectum. You've got about as many nerve cells in the gut wall, like 500 million cells, as you do in the spinal cord. So it's a very impressive and complex little brain.
Nel sistema più o meno lo stesso di come nella spina dorsale. Vedo che lei sta facendo di sì con la testa, quindi mi capisce che quando parlo in italiano. We could have done this in Italian.
Well, when you say the words, lo so le parole, è solo quando io voglio spiegare queste cose, perché non ho mai usato le parole della cosa di scienza. Non posso trovare così, non è facile per me per trovare delle parole. Yeah, but when you say them, I understand them.
I understand. And you know the English equivalent, which is very similar because they all come from Latin or Greek anyway.
Exactly.
And maybe you can give Mark Fabreo a few lessons.
I'm sure he'd love that.
So no, this podcast, I mentioned you've commenced a podcast. So you've begun interviewing scientists. Is that correct? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, scientists, but not just. So I work in academia with a university. I want to interview scientists from all different fields and from all different occupations to find out what makes really great leaders in science a great leader.
And in fact, the one that I saw, that I watched recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, was with a clinician. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He had a lot of experience.
Yeah, he did. He does. He's a surgeon who works at the Royal Children's Hospital, and he's also involved in research as well. He's a real leader in his field because he started a special service to help kids with who have surgeries for various conditions to do with their bowels. And it's about providing not just support for the operation itself, but support for the family, psychological support as well, just providing them with a network of people to really help the families through.
Yeah, and let me just continue without translating for a minute. Why the focus on leadership? Why is this interesting to you?
I listen to a lot of podcasts on leadership, particularly women in leadership. And it got me thinking about the fact that particularly in my profession, although I guess the same could be said for many, that a lot of people get promoted to a position of leadership based on their ability to do really great science. However, being a great scientist doesn't necessarily make you a great leader. Scientists relate really well to other scientists, so I wanted to give some great leaders the chance to share what it is that makes their leadership so special.
Yes, and I guess it's something that's important also for women in science and to understand how that goes. Well, I guess certain types of science have a high number of females at senior levels, but the academic world isn't fantastic like that, is it?
No, there's a real drop-off. Quite a large number of females start and do very well, and will finish their PhDs and do well in the early postdoctoral years. But there's a real gap between those that become professors and reach those senior positions later on. So yes, absolutely. There's been a big shift in recent years in trying to ensure that women have the mentorship, the skills and capability, and that people are just generally more aware of unconscious bias in not selecting women for potential positions as well.
Yes. And well, now we have to finish fairly soon, so I'll ask you now a bit about your Italianness. This name Carbone, where does it come from? You said you're from Adelaide, originally from Adelaide.
I am from Adelaide, yeah.
So you have family here?
I do. Okay, let's see if I can do this bit in Italian. La parte di mio padre vengono da vicino Napoli, Altavilla Iripina.
Okay.
E la parte, so that's the Carbone side. E la parte di mia madre vengono dalle Marche, Ascoli Piceno nelle Marche.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So presumably they met in Australia, in Adelaide.
They did. They met in Australia. So my dad was born here. His sisters were born in Italy. But like most migrants in the 50s, they came over in the late 50s to start a life, make some money to send back to their families, back home to their families in Italy. And things worked out well for them here. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Excellent. Okay. So I'll say thank you again for coming on to Radio Italia Una Adelaide and giving us this overview, a quick, rapid overview of what you're studying. and what you're researching. Actually, I'm not sure we talked about what the DECRA Project is. Now did we discuss your DECRA Project? No, we didn't.
I kind of brushed over it.
What's the research question or the research question?
Okay, the research question is, so I talked about the gut and its little brain.
Yep.
There are a group of cells that were thought to be just glue that held this brain in place in the gut wall. Yep. They're called glia or glue cells. I'm trying to understand what it is exactly that these glue cells do. It turns out they're really important for helping this gut brain communicate in the gut wall.
Wow, okay. Well, we'll have to look out for that and for the outputs from the research. Maybe we'll have you on again to talk about what results you're getting when you get results. Sounds like you've got some already.
Getting there.
Getting there. Now, I'm going to put some music on in a minute. Would you like to choose something?
I did send you 2 suggestions, didn't I? Mi fido di te was the one I think that I suggested.
Okay, why? What's significant of this?
It was a song that played the first time I went to Italy. It was being played everywhere when I was over there. And so, of course, you know, it's a very romantic song. We were in Italy. Yeah, it just brings back good memories.
Jovanotti.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Jovanotti. So it was playing a lot when you were in Italy?
No, first time in Italy, yeah.
First time in Italy?
Yeah.
How many times have you been?
I've been 3 times now.
Cool. And do you like it?
Oh, loved it. It's like a piece that's missing, especially the first time I went back. It, yeah, made me feel whole.
How? So you said something's missing. What does that mean? That's what you're saying is not uncommon.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a little bit was to do with spending some quality time with my maternal grandmother's sister, her youngest sister. She and I seemed to have a very similar temperament and got along really well. So there was that. Yeah, it's really strange. I can't pinpoint what it is. I've thought about it a lot, and I don't know. It's just a feeling. It just feels right going back. It always does.
Let's go back to Mark Febbraio, by the way. He's also actually, when we had his Zoom meeting, he put up as a wallpaper behind him a photo of the hometown where his father comes from. He said, however, he wasn't willing to speak in Italian. He did say poco poco.
Poco poco?
Yeah,
oh,
so
dear.
obviously
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, posso parlare un pochettino, ma non lo uso abbastanza questi giorni. I have seen actually on Twitter that you two seem to have cooking competitions.
Well, no, he's an expert. And what is very interesting, the other song you selected was from an artist that I had here on the looked up. So Cesare Cremonini.
Yeah, that was the other song that played a lot while I was over there too at the same time.
Maggese. So why do you like Cremonini?
That was the same reason that song was played a lot as well. And when you hear it, you know, we were walking around the streets of Rome singing this song with my friends who don't speak Italian as badly as we could. Yeah, just is definitely, you can feel walking around the streets of Italy singing this song for sure.
Cool. Okay, so now we've got it. Cesare Cremonini, Maggese. Again, thank you very much, Simona, for coming on to the radio.
Piacere.
Allora, Cesare Cremonini con Maggese, che era stata richiesta da Simona Carbone, e vedo che è ancora in linea. So you're still there. Non abbiamo detto i nomi dei mamma e papà. Diamo un saluto.
Okay.
Mamma e papà.
Saluto mamma Piera e mio papà Tony.
Tony e Piera Carbone. Ok, quindi sì, ci ha fatto molto piacere avere Simona qui in linea e parleremo di nuovo con lei in futuro. E adesso sì, torniamo ad ascoltare un po' di musica e poi parliamo di nuovo qui su Radio Italia 1 Adelaide.